Narayan Ayurveda and Yoga Academy.
Good hello and namaste. This is Atul. Welcome to our cooking workshop. We're going to be making rice and mung bean crepes, or dosa. So this is the batter. We've gotten those, the rice and the yellow split mung very well soaked and just slightly fermented. The fermentation, it's not something, it shouldn't smell bad or anything like that. It just, you'll see some bubbles that come on top. And we drain off some of the water and just enough to get it blended up. When we store it in the refrigerator, we want it to be thicker because it's really easy to add water and thin it out. It's really, really hard to get water out of this once you've added too much water in. So we usually store it a little thicker than we're going to use it. And if you'll notice, as it has sat in the refrigerator, the ground up rice and dal has become sunk to the bottom, and there's a little layer of water on top. So now I've mixed it up and I've gotten that back in. So you can actually take the batter at this consistency and you can put it in a waffle maker, and you can get gluten-free waffles. And they're savory waffles, so you can have them with a vegetable or soup or something like that. And they're actually really nice, and it's easy to cook. What we're going to show today is we're going to show the more traditional way of making a crepe, or a thin pancake. Now, there's kind of an art to making those pancakes. The first thing is we want the batter to be thinner. So you notice how much thinner this batter is now? I've added a little bit of water to make a thin batter. Not too thin. If it's too thin, then it's going to stick. So I've got a ceramic pan here, and I have a bamboo spatula to go with it. That's what we're going to be cooking in. We're going to use a little bit of oil. You can use extra virgin olive oil, or you can use canola oil. We're waiting for this to heat up. You want it to be a good temperature, so I've put this flame on kind of a medium flame. It may be a little hard to see that in the video. And I'm going to let this sit for a couple of minutes. We've got the batter all ready to go. And it's something that goes fairly quickly. So at first your dosas may come out a little bit thick. As you get practice, you'll be able to make them thinner. Sometimes you may start out with using a little bit more oil, and as you practice, you'll be able to make it with less oil. The traditional way to make dosa is to make a thin crepe, and then sometimes they'll put some vegetable inside, like cooked potatoes and something, and roll it up and serve it with chutneys, which is another thing we're going to make today. So this is just about ready. So we're going to go ahead and do the first one. I'm going to put a really thin layer of oil here, just maybe 1 teaspoon of oil. And I'm going to tilt the pan to get it spread around. Okay, here we go. Now, I'm going to use kind of a spiral motion, and then immediately I'm going to tilt the pan a little bit to get it to spread around. That didn't come out so neatly, but that's fine. We're going to let it cook more on one side than on the other. So the dosa should come out with a golden brown consistency. It should have a golden brown color on one side. The other side might be a little white, but it'll still be very well cooked. This combination of rice and mung beans has a lot of protein in it, and the rice adds a lot of starch to it, and that allows it to cook Now you can see how the bubbles are coming out here. That's because our batter is fermented, and even without that slight amount of fermentation in the batter, we would still be getting some bubbles like this, just because of the combination of the rice and the mung beans. I'm letting this cook just a little bit. If I try to scoop it up too early, it's going to tend to stick and get rumpled, and it'll come out. It can come out sometimes kind of like an omelet, and it's okay, but we really would like it to come out like a nice, thin, neat crepe. Okay, so I'm going to give it a test here. It's still just a little bit sticky. I'm going to give it just another minute before I do that. So we're just going to give it a minute, and if you watch closely, you should see around the edges, it should show some signs of maybe pulling up a little tiny bit. So now we start to push in a little bit on the edge. It's still not quite ready. I think we can get the pan just a little warmer. Now you see it's starting to lift up. That's what it should be doing. Okay, and then we can just flip this over. Now you can see this was not quite ready. We could actually have the pan a bit hotter, but this is going to come out well cooked. It's just not quite the color that we want to have. The pan is still getting hotter, so the next one's going to come out better. But, you know, it takes a little bit of working around the edges and getting the edges freed until we can get this underneath. And if the edges seem like they're kind of glued to the pan, it means you didn't wait long enough. So this is the slightly tricky part. Using the thicker batter and using a waffle maker can give you those gluten-free waffles, the Dosa waffles. And this is also something that's best served hot. So if you have the batter in the fridge, now unlike regular pancake batter, which will have the baking soda and baking powder in it that reacts if it sits mixed up too long, this does not react. In fact, it actually works better the longer it sits. So you can take it out, mix it up, add just enough water to get the consistency, and boom, you can start making dosa. See, now this is done. The color is not quite what we want, but it's actually done. So now you can see our pan's a little hotter. You can see how it's already starting to sort of pull up around the edges. And it's cooking more quickly. Yeah. We've got bubbles coming all the way through, and you can see how this is getting actually cooked all the way through. So we can actually loosen it already. Can still get a little more color on this side. We'll give it another minute or so before we flip it. So this is getting a little warmer. We're not quite there yet. You can use a bigger griddle, you can use a non-stick griddle, you can use an iron griddle. There are a lot of different ways that you can make dosa. There you go. Now this is more like the color that we want to have. This is a light golden brown color, and that second side we're going to give that another 30 seconds or so, 45 seconds, a minute maybe. And the other side is still going to be a little white in color, and it may pick up some brown as well, but this is well cooked. Now the consistency of a dosa is not exactly like a pancake or a pastry or a baked item. It's a little spongy. It's almost like the Ethiopian teff. It comes out a little spongy, and it's a nice consistency, really. So here we've got, this is still white on this side, but it's actually already well cooked. But we'll just give it another 15 seconds or so. This is done now. So I'm going to go ahead and fold it up and put it over here. Traditional ways to serve dosa are rolled up like that, sometimes rolled up with some potato vegetable, spiced potato inside, and with chutneys on the side.